Hello, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Thanks for bearing with me. I'm trying something a little bit different right now. Um, this is going to be a recorded space call, just on the off chance that there's something worth saving for the future. Let's see if we can bring some people up here. Just kind of bringing up everybody as they requested. Just ask that everyone, be polite and give each other a chance to talk. And yeah, fire away. How's everyone doing? All right, cool. Good talk. um, so Progenity is having a bit of a hard time getting back above this 450 resistance. And I know that I said I would be here a little bit earlier, but it's hard getting up for the market bell every day when you're on the West Coast. But
Thanks
as I
for
noted, what's
Good
up,
morning,
man?
everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having this call, Trillium.
This thing has any armor plating.
Thanks for having us
Yeah,
on,
no
Trinity.
worries.
I think it's
No worries.
good to say when in doubt, just zoom out, because if you look at the chart from last month, yeah, it's amazing to see where we are right now. So put your mind
Yeah,
at ease
absolutely.
and just relax.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to go over the technicals here a little bit because the chart shows that we are bouncing off this ascending line of support, or kind of hovering above it, really. But we've been in this rising channel for a long time, and then we broke below it, and now it looks like there's an expanding megaphone on the entire chart when you look at it on the daily. So it's kind of like the way that you draw it is you draw a resistance line across all the top wicks, and they usually line up perfectly so that there's this ascending line, and that's your resistance line for the entire for the daily. And then below that you draw a line along the bottom wicks, and that's your support line. And when it forms this big widening megaphone pattern, it's an indication of incoming volatility until it eventually just comes to an end. So right now we're actually in a serious period of volatility. We touched the top of that. We touched the top of that resistance at $6.20, which, when you think about like where we were last week, we were at $2.80. So a little more than twice, double the value of the stock just in a matter of 3 days. That's a pretty impressive feat. So, like I was mentioning, um, like I was mentioning beforehand when I did my last sign-off tweet for the day yesterday, that I saw a good chance that shorts were going to come into it because they've been returning shares for the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 days. There's been net returns a little over 1 million shares. So the utilization has stayed high, but that doesn't mean that they can't somehow find shares or make deals with somebody privately in order to find them. It just means that whatever the brokers have is being fully utilized. So there's always ways to find more shares to short. It's just difficult, So they are still in a position where it's going to be difficult for them to find these shares, but they can get them eventually. At least At least if they try hard enough, or they make some deals behind closed doors. All the same, I don't think that it's enough ammo to actually do much damage to the stock anymore. Um, we have so much support at this point between the gamma ramp that's now in the money, and I mean deep in the money, um, and most of those have actually been exercised at this point. I would say that about 30% of the calls that were on the chain deep in the money, like below $3, were already exercised. And that's pretty significant. Most people don't exercise early. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, like, why would you exercise early? What does that do? When you think about how algorithms operate and the fact that market makers are trying to maintain a net neutral position, but they're also handling back and forth a lot of high risk derivatives like calls and puts. They sometimes get into a position where they need to respond to demand by taking options that are not hedged for, meaning they don't, like, if they open up a call and sell it into the market, then they usually take a naked call, and that means they don't have the underlying shares to cover it if that call is exercised. So if it goes in the money and they need to and that the person who bought that call decides that they want to buy it, then, well, the market maker has to go out into the market, go buy the shares, or they pull the shares out of their inventory and deliver it to the person who they sold the call to. If they have to do that early, then it's unexpected because it takes some effort to exercise a call early. You have to call your broker directly. It's like it's not usually something that people take the time to go and do because they're not paying as close attention. And when you do that, it kind of messes with their supply chain, and you're forcing them to have to go into the market to go buy the shares. And because there's a T+2 settlement cycle, they only have 2 days to make that delivery before it becomes a failure to deliver. So by exercising early, you are forcing the market maker and whoever you bought the call from to go get those shares ahead of time. And you're also doing it before Friday. So that's putting more pressure on the stock to lift it up. And if there's a gamma ramp like there is on Progenity right now, then you can cause other calls to run in the money. And then statistically, there's going to be some people exercising then too. So it's kind of like this self-fulfilling, vicious cycle. If you can get enough calls to go in the money, and if enough people exercise at the same time, then there's a very, very good solid chance that it just causes the stock to go parabolic. So I've been yakking for a little while. Somebody want to ask a question, or maybe Wall Street? I'd like to hear some of your thoughts on where we are from the technical side.
Hey, what's going on, brother? Yeah, I'm actually just trying to get set up. I paid for the virtual conference, so I'm trying to get set up to be able to listen to that. And yeah, everybody this morning, I know a lot of that could have been misconstrued, but it's a bullish strategy. There's a lot of bullish strategies out there, and it seems to have worked quite nicely. It's not meant to be FUD, But if anybody has questions about that, I'll be happy to answer later on. But yeah, for right now, I'm just trying to get the Zoom up to date and working.
Guys, Pro Trader Mike, thanks for inviting me up to speak. How's everybody doing today? Thank you. Speak about the Prog, the Progenity. I first picked that stock on 6/13 of 2021 out of the MarketSmith database. I'm an avid subscriber to O'Neill and the Ken Slim system. I specialize in small cappers, like 50 cents to $5. I picked this on $3 at 21 cents. on 6/13. On that day, it had a 1,470% increase in their volume to 22.6 million versus 992,000. And also the increased earnings estimates by the analysts on that day in June. They were estimating a loss of $4.05 in 2020. And I'm looking at that right now on today's chart. It's $2.72. So they cut that in half. In 2021, they went from a loss of $4.05 to a loss of $2.42, and then to a loss this year of $1.52 with increased earnings estimates. And the last quarter, a 200% increase from 200,000 versus 100,000. And it says the next earnings are coming out on 11/30, November 30th. And I think it looks good to go over two targets. One, stabilized chart are 786 and 755. If it gets through there, 956 is the next stop, and then sky's the limit after that. It has increased earnings estimates for the next 2 years, so I'm expecting the next 6 quarters to keep on increasing exponentially 100 to 200%. This thing's going to keep on squeezing higher and higher.
I think that's a really good, solid analysis. The levels that you look back as far as the levels that you look back as far as their IPO date back in what was it, June 2020.
June 13th.
Right.
Yes, on that day, I picked it on Sunday. It came out as one of the most high volume increase percentage stocks out of 8,000 in the entire O'Neill database.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I also find it pretty fascinating that they were trading with so much volume out of an IPO with less than 30 million shares. Like they traded 3 million shares right on the first day.
The other biggest spike was in December of 2020. It had traded 4.1 million shares in one day, and it went from $3.08 to $7.55, which is its current high that we need to go break, the 755 and the 786. Once it goes through there, and we've already experienced today 57 million in volume, the shorters just need to keep on doing what they're doing. The margin calls need to be settled out. The people that are short and squeeze need to be taken out of the picture. And once it settles down to 15, 20 million again, hopefully it'll be like at that 755 to 786 mark, breaking through to $10. That's what I think in the next 3 to 6 months.
I think that's a really valid assessment. With the squeeze being a play, though, I'm honestly targeting much higher. I don't set price targets for anybody because I don't want to set up anyone for.
I mean, it's a blanket over the quicksand. Everyone's running towards it, shorting it. They have no idea that increased analyst estimates are going from a loss of 214 in 2021 to a loss of 77 cents. That's a 300% increase in earnings per share and sales, which will erase the last quarterly box I'm looking at says 200%. Before that, it says NA. There's nothing. The quarter before that, nothing. So those two boxes will move to the left. You'll see a 200%, a 200%, a 300%, a 200% over the next 4 quarters. It's a whole new stock. It only has 2% mutual fund and hedge fund ownership right now versus 12% in June. So figure that. In June, when it was 3, it had 12% mutual funds and 60 million shares outstanding in the float. Now it has 163 million shares outstanding and only 2% mutual funds, but it's a lot higher in price.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic, we're like, I see all this negativity coming out of articles from Investor Place, very specifically Investor Place. There's a couple of others just naysaying that Progenity's like a dead company, or that it's like it's not ready to go yet, or whatever. All sorts of extremely dumb arguments. But
Well,
Sorry, Thomas,
volume
did you
has
confirm
come in
something?
since October. It's traded, you know, crazy volume. It says they provide molecular and specialized diagnostic solutions for prenatal care and treatment of cancer. So any kind of catalyst could squeeze the pants off of this thing.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It was specifically the argument that like, oh, there's going to be dilution and like everybody panics over dilution. What frustrates me though is that there's this kind of research is insanely expensive, and Progenity was able to take what was it, like I want to say something like a 40-50 million dollar opening round of funding, and they were able to stretch that out over a single year, and they were able to use it to drive. How many patents do they have in the works? Like they have more than 100 patents that they have processing, and they've already gotten approvals for. They've already gotten assignments for the 5 patents.
Dude,
one of them being that Humira delivery system.
They're coming out with earnings on 11/30 in 12 days. They're going up against a loss of $1.53. Last quarter, they lost 38 cents. And the analysts are expecting a 77-cent loss divided by 4 quarters is around 30 cents. So they're going to do 30-cent loss versus $1.53. That right there is 300% increase. And this thing is going to go in the next 12 days. What I would tell everybody a trick is, I'm great at these Ken Slimmers and the small caps. Put in a good to cancel order for $15 and leave it. With that, the firms can't lend your shares out to shorters. So there is no more shares to short. The shorters are stuck. Your shares are out for a $15 price, and watch it soar. That's a cool little trick as well. Besides the other cool little trick you mentioned about those the naked calls.
Thanks, man. I want to give somebody else an opportunity to ask questions or say something they want to say. Does anybody else have something?
Yeah, and we also got a few more people requested. I know Hoop Money's tracking the Wyckoff pattern pretty closely. As for me, just looking at the chart, man, I love the chart. You know, I mean, it's been following a clear trend for over a month and a half now, and we've seemed to have found some comfort up here at 445, 450. You know, once we break that 450, I think we saw some de-hedging yesterday too. Once we broke some levels, the 550, the $5, but it actually held up really strong. A lot of times when you see the de-hedging take place, and you can see it, it's those big candles. That's the market makers who were naked that bought the shares to get us up to those elevated prices. Once it gets lower, well, they'll start selling it, trying to create more selling pressure. But it actually held up a lot better than I anticipated, which is great. And like I said, for me, this doesn't need to squeeze today and tomorrow. And I know that goes against some people because I'm bullish on this either way. Even the gamma, like I was here in September, and the October chain, the people who were in it then were saying, man, we got to squeeze October. That's when the gamma chain is. It's a look at the chain in October. November didn't look like anything, and now November's huge, and people are saying the same thing. But at the same time, I'm looking ahead at December and January, and that options chain is increasing exponentially. So for me, there's no timeline on this thing. And like I said, I used bear money today to go long. I'm trying to take their money off the table and put it on the long side. Again, none of this is financial advice. We all play stocks differently. There's a lot of different methods to be a bull in this market. But I just wanted to share that real quick, that I love this. And I could not be more comfortable in my position.
Same for me.
Am I crazy, or did they open up? I feel like last week the option chain was only open up for next month. And now I see
You're correct.
weeklies up and down the option chain.
You're correct. They opened up weeklies at every 50-cent mark till $10. I believe every 50-cent mark. It might not be, but and also December's a quarterly too. Just so everybody knows, quarterlies tend to be big in the squeeze. We had GME and AMC, GME on a yearly, AMC gamma squeeze on a quarterly, SBRT gamma squeeze on a quarterly, right before all of those right before. It's a theory I've been working on. Nothing's proven that we see a good gamma ramp going into the quarterlies.
Now those weeklies could come in handy on a day where a big announcement is made, whether it's a partnership announcement or a driver like that. But I'm looking at this right now, and I'm very excited to see it go above the upper band. I want to see it stay above 450 for a little bit of time, and I think a lot of people are going to jump back in and FOMO back into this before the day's out. But I'm just watching that closely right now. But like you said, this is a comfortable play. You have the short effect on it. You got the gamma effect on it. You got the fact that this company has its brightest days ahead of it, and the price is still, to me, severely undervalued. So it's a really nice play to be in.
Agreed. I think we might see some more re-hedging if we can get up towards that 480 mark area, and I never tell anybody to buy at any level. I know there's a lot of people who FOMO'd in, but if you did research for as long as I have, and that's why I'm so personally convicted, then I get the questions, oh my God, I FOMO'd in at 6. I just say, man, you got to make your plan, and you got to do your research, because if you enter any trade just on a whim or what you're seeing and let me get in quick before something happens, you're always going to have fear, uncertainty, doubt. You're not going to know what's going on with a stock. But if you do your research and you stay convicted to any play, then you'll feel as comfortable as I do, So
that is spot on, man. 100% accurate. Yeah, I mean, I think somebody else mentioned it, but there are multiple sets of eyes on this play, right? I mean, you had the technical aspect going for it and the potential of a mega gamma squeeze, but you have people who are also interested in it from, a long-term fundamental approach, because there are going to be upcoming catalysts. So I think that's what's so special and unique about this is we have a wide array of different individuals who are bullish on this for different reasons. And I think that makes it an even better case. And just like you mentioned, if you can do your own research on it in your own due diligence, it definitely helps bolster your level of conviction versus if you're just hopping in, you're FOMO in, and you don't even know what you hold, right? It could be anything, but yeah, that's just to add on that.
Yeah, the any of those, like maybe newer traders that might have FOMO'd in at around like the 6 range. Also, these Prog pullbacks, you'll see every week it's gone up about $1. But on these dips, if you're convicted and you just got a bad fill, if you buy the dip at like 386, 4, you FOMO'd in at 6. Now, you drop your average share price to a little bit below 5, and you're almost back to even with a clean day. So that's one way where you have more shares and you become in the green a lot sooner rather than later if you don't want to get out of the play. So just, not financial advice, but just what I've seen in my experience on trades that I really believed in, that maybe I went in a little too at a bad entry, but I didn't want to get out of the play. That's one way to stay in the game.
Yeah, no, that is so accurate. And you can see, I mean, if you look at the last 2 months and you look at what the average daily range has been, and you're looking at what the stock typically does in a day on days where it's green, I mean, you could just tell that the last 2 days it was so overextended that it was due for a pullback. And that's just like you said, that's typically, but it still maintains its uptrend. So it keeps putting in those higher lows, and that's just like TA 101 basics. So yeah, I mean, anytime, any advice for anybody in any play you're ever in, whenever you see that it's overextended, there's probably going to be some people who are profit taking, because you got to understand, this is hitting everybody's scanners. You have long-term swing traders, you have people who like to just day trade and scalp. It's going to hit everybody's scanners, especially when you have 300 million volume traded. I mean, everybody and their mom's going to be talking about the stock, right? So you got to expect that there will be some shorts jumping in intraday. But like you said, yeah, I mean, you could definitely wait for the pullback and just jump in on a dip and then make it a less emotional experience for you.
Hey guys, those are the charts from Market Smith going back from 613 and currently as of this moment. I put them both in there, and it's got a saucer formation. It looks really good. Take a look at those charts.
For Demon?
For PROG, I posted it above everyone in a link. on my Twitter, so you can click on those and see both of the charts for MarketSmith back from 613.
Thanks very much, man.
Yeah, save
I'm
those
really
to your
appreciating this
computer.
analysis. It's a nice second opinion. I've not looked at charts with those patterns.
Thank you. If you just save it to your computer, check it out later. Give me some analysis.
Absolutely.
Would be sweet.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's awesome.
I got a lot of people who've been waiting to ask a question. Win big. I think that you had your hand up and you were getting cut off a few times. Why don't you go ahead? Go next.
Talking to me, Demon?
Were you trying to also say something?
Yeah,
something, Thomas?
exactly. Yeah, you had said something about quite possibly 5 minutes ago how the shorts, and I think the last of your sentence ended with are out of ammo. Every time I turn around, and I've been in this since 98 cents, in and out. Every time I turn around, it seems like they're finding new ways, even though we're on the failure to deliver list, we're on the no shares available, we're on the highest cost to borrow. It just seems like that's a broken record. And for you to come out and say that, they're out of ammo, that sort of
Well, hold on, man. I
intrigues me.
didn't. I said that the stock was fully utilized, so it makes the stock hard to borrow. But I already explained that it's not impossible. So they can make private deals with brokers and other market makers and hedge funds to borrow shares. That's something that can absolutely be done.
Yeah,
So even though it's hard to borrow, and even though Ortex will say it's 100% utilized, it doesn't mean that it's impossible for them to get other shares borrowed so that they can sell them short. It's just very hard for them to do it, and it's expensive because they have to settle for a cost to borrow fee that's probably going to be far above average. And that's why you see these insane cost to borrow fees at the high side going like 500% sometimes with certain stocks.
yeah. I guess my question was just, how can they just keep doing that? At that point, at some point, it just, with the ATR, CEO. I mean, just how can that happen is really what my question is.
Well, it's a simple question with a complicated answer, but long and short of it is that they can always make a deal with somebody in order to create shares that they can use to short with. There's plenty of other devices that they can use for it, and this especially applies to members of ISDA, which is the International Securities and Derivatives Association. It's basically the big boys club where you have to have like so many millions or even billions of dollars in your portfolio to manage. And it's a special club where they get to write these private derivative exchanges. And they often do this in order to create these synthetic positions. And two guys that I would recommend you taking a look at in order to learn more about that is AMC Biggums and also Wired, XX underscore Wired underscore XX. He and Biggums have done a tremendous amount of research on it, and there's also a YouTuber, Randall Cornett, who's interviewed me a couple of times that had them on to discuss these exact types of derivatives and how these major hedge funds and private institutions are able to kind of trade risk back and forth in order to create these high risk derivatives in order to short the stock continuously, even if there are no shares to borrow. The simpler answer is that they basically trade calls and puts for a net neutral position, and then they privately agree how they're going to handle those options or those derivatives in such a way that their goal is to push down the stock, and then they both profit. The person who has the puts profits when the stock goes down, and the person who sells the calls profits because they get more premium in order to short the stock, and then they can also play this weird game with the books where they're able to mark their positions as located against calls that were sold, but they sold them through a partner who's not going to, that they're not going to exercise through. So
Gotcha.
It's basically a giant it's basically a giant game of let's play hide the money with the SEC.
Gotcha. Okay.
And also,
well, I do appreciate that answer, and I just want to let you know I follow you all the time, and I really appreciate all your insight. And I'll let somebody else speak. Thank you
also,
again.
No problem, man.
correct me if I'm wrong, True Demon. Also, it can be cyclical. It's and like, okay, let's say person B wants to borrow shares from person A. So they borrow the shares and then they sell it into the market to person C. Person D comes along and wants to borrow shares to short. So they borrow it from person C and sell it off into the market. And that can continue. I believe that was a big thing of what happened with GameStop in January.
Yes, that is absolutely the case. You can have repeat borrowing of shares. It's something that I believe that the SEC is working on with the NSCC and the DTCC in order to prevent it from happening. But I think that it's only an effort on paper. It's mainly just to say that they're doing something. I don't think that they're actually making any practical changes to the trading systems in order to actually enforce it.
Exactly. And just to clarify that in simpler terms for everybody listening, it essentially means that one share can be shorted an infinite amount of times because everybody who buys that short position becomes the legitimate owner of that share. So they can do whatever they want to do with that share. And even though it's the same share.
What if you put it out for sale during the day as a good till canceled at a much higher price? Then the broker can't lend your shares out. Is that correct?
That's an interesting theory, but I'm probably gonna say no, because to be honest with you, not a single person that operates through a central broker truly owns their shares. They have their shares marked in a position against the broker's books. So honestly, no, probably not, because you're working with the broker's inventory of shares, and yes, the broker has to maintain an inventory of shares according to what they have on their transaction books, but that doesn't prevent them from lending out shares in their inventory in order to kind of trade positions back and forth.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
whatever we can do to get the big guy, that's what we're trying.
Yeah, the main thing to do is to not put your shares up for lending in the first place. If you have a broker that allows you to do it, or if you're with Fidelity, like I choose to use Fidelity as my broker, they do not have share lending, and as long as you are maintaining if you're in a margin account, then as long as you maintain your margin requirements, then your shares do not go up for lending. And if you're in a cash account, then you cannot have your shares lent out at all. They're just your shares. They don't do share lending programs.
Sorry.
Oh no. Hoot, go ahead and I've had a couple of moments here. I want you to get some words in. I know you've been big on this play too.
All right. So I just wanted to ask one question because someone messaged me last night. Apparently, there's a difference in the free float right now. It's saying here on Ortex it's at 145 million shares. Also, Weeble's got it at 148, and I'm not sure of all these sources, but Yahoo Finance also has it at 112. And when I was looking at the Ortex data, it looked like the short interest was actually down. So it says currently 20% of the free float is shorted. And I don't know if I have a bad memory, but a few days ago, I'm pretty sure it was at like 26 or 27%.
And shares shorted is up on that too, just so everybody knows. But go ahead, True.
Yeah, so the Ortex definitely gets you the most up-to-date data. Most of the other platforms that you mentioned are relying on the reported short interest reports that come out on a monthly basis. So those short interest reports are marked according to the broker's books, but that's a final report and it doesn't update in real time. It updates every 30 days. So Ortex actually takes live data that they pull from their prime brokers, which I believe that they stated on record that they have access to 80% of prime broker data. So basically 80% of all the brokers that are in the stock market in the United States, they have access to their data and they get updates in real time, and they do their best to relay that and calculate that out on an hourly or 2 hourly basis. So at least Vortex is giving you the fastest, most up-to-date data, but at the end of the day, we still have to remember that all of these positions are they're marked according to self-reported numbers, and they cannot be guaranteed to be accurate either. I will say that I kind of predicted that when I saw these net returns coming back, that it was going to lead some more shorts having shares available to borrow. So it's important to take note that there's a 2-day settlement cycle anytime that there's an exchange of these shares. So when somebody borrows, there's 2 days before those shares get delivered to whoever they sold it short to. And whenever they return the shares, after they buy those shares back, there's a 2-day settlement cycle to deliver that back to the broker to return it to the legitimate owner of that share who it was borrowed from. So there's these 2-day lag periods every time these shares go back and forth. So even with Cortex's real-time data, it's still not quite fast enough because we don't have real-time settlement. So just something important to keep in mind. That being said, we did see a whole lot of returns that came back today, or well, yesterday, the day before that. And we've been in this ascending channel that sharply rose over the last 3 days. So worth keeping in mind that 2-day lag period affects those, and you kind of have to like shift your chart to account for that in your mind. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that.
For the hedging of the delta hedging on these option chains that get real heavy, I've left a few calls behind just in case. What I've seen happen on some trades where the option chain is real heavy, it seems like the market makers are waiting till the last day or so to start hedging. And have you guys seen that? Or I mean, that's kind of, I've seen that happen with Nvidia, Tesla, and a few other plays that I've been in where the option chain is heavy, and I'm not sure when they hedge, but it seems like sometimes they do it at the last minute. So I'm leaving a few calls behind just in case.
I personally think, and no one knows when anybody hedges. Like, that's up to the person, the individual, the institution, whatever. What I've noticed on this and other charts is I think what we saw yesterday and the day before was primarily gamma hedging. And also what I think we saw yesterday was unhedging. That's just an opinion. I can't prove it, but because as we know, market makers love to pin prices going into a heavy options chain. And if you look up Max Payne theory, they're going to try their best to drive it to where they lose the least amount of money in between puts and calls and the money. That's why I'm saying that I think I can't believe, well, I can, because the bullish sentiment around it, the ravenous proggers out there, but it held up quite nicely because I think they were attempting their hardest, and they still are, to pin it. Now, that being said, I think that they did unhedge yesterday, and should we get positive price action? But remember, we're not fighting shorts in this moment. Now we're fighting market makers more than the shorts, because they're the ones with the most to lose in this moment. And they're damn good fighters. I've seen it time and time again that they pin prices and they're pretty damn good at it. But I'm thinking they can't believe that they've only gotten it down this low, because they're still, according to my count this morning, above 550. Where the hell is it? I don't know. It's something like 11 million shares in the money for this month alone. And that's not including today's action. So,
Right.
but yeah. Could they be wait to hedge? Yeah, and like I said, I think there is more to hedge should we get a a good violent push up, and then you'll see again like we saw a couple days ago. But again, just my opinion. We don't know when people hedge or unhedge.
Yeah. The main thing is that the more of these that expire in the money and end up getting exercised, the worse it is for the market makers. And the fact that Max Payne is all the way back down to $2 really does say something about the momentum. Yeah, 250. Right. Thank you. So, like, these are millions of dollars that are being lost by market makers, just off of selling short straddles and short strangle strategies. It's mainly what I've noted that market makers end up doing is they'll sell puts and calls, and their ideal is when they hit that perfect price where the majority of those expire out of the money. That's exactly what they want. So that's the net of Max Payne theory that Wall Street's referencing. So whenever you see like this massive amount of calls and massive amount of puts, there's this happy middle ground where the market maker makes the most money because they forced all those options to expire worthless. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about pinning the price at Max Payne, because it creates the Max Payne for retail investors and also hedge funds. This also affects hedge funds.
And funny enough, that was another point to my strategy today, and part of my wishful thinking was because I'm bullish on this, so nobody listening to this who didn't see any of my posts think, oh my God, he's bearish. No, not at all. But I bought $4 puts for next to nothing, and I hope they expire worthless. And today we dropped down to $3.94. Why did I do that? A, if they do try to pin the price, I want to create more pain for them at higher levels than 250. And B, have no plans to sell my shares at $4 unless something crazy changes, which I don't see that happening. So what I did is right when we dropped below 4 is I sold those puts back to the market makers, and because they're bears on it, and I took their money and I personally went long with those shares. But in doing so, part of my thinking was, hey, what if I raise their pain level, So that's just something I did.
That's also a good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and thank you guys for putting this platform together for all of us. It revolves around the Wyckoff pattern. Obviously, we're in like a reaccumulation period. How much time is left before this final leg of the Wyckoff pattern completes? And then what is to come after that?
So the Wyckoff pattern does not actually have a specific timeline. It can happen on very short and very long timelines. Right now, we're mainly paying attention to the Wyckoff pattern on a daily timeline over the course of the last 3 weeks. And excuse me, sorry. We're actually looking at a Wyckoff reaccumulation. So there's already been a Wyckoff accumulation that's been happening much, much longer than this on Progenity's chart. So if you look at the chart for Progenity, going as far as this huge dip that happened and then a run up, and it formed a head and shoulders pattern. That is the beginning of a much longer, larger Wyckoff accumulation pattern. There was this volume spike that occurred at that time back in let's see, it started at about December, like right at the beginning of December of 2020. It was the first leg up. That was the phase A pattern as it dropped back down and it hit its first major dip and then found support there. And this dip and slight increase before another big dip, that's phase B. And then finally we tested at that low 0.65. That's 65 cents that we hit. That was technically, if you look at the Wyckoff pattern on that timeline, that would have been the spring. And right now, the much larger Wyckoff accumulation that we're seeing here is we actually hit the test after we saw a sign of strength on right around October 27th to the week of the 27th, and then we fell back down in November on the 12th, and we hit another low, and we retested that $3 level, and this is technically the final leg of that pattern. if this trend continues, then this last leg of this much larger Wyckoff accumulation will probably play out over the course of the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to guess. Might be a little bit longer than that. But if you look at the reaccumulation pattern that started only at about, I'd say about September 28th, then this reaccumulation pattern where we're in this consistent rising channel, and then we had these two big dips to the spring on November 12th, same date as with the larger pattern. Now we have this new leg starting, and if this on this timeline, it's much shorter. So this could play out in as little as a few days. Not saying that's definitive, but this next leg up may take only this may take only a few days, or it might take 2 weeks to play out. That's kind of my estimation here.
Okay, thank you. One other question for you. Do you feel that potentially the theory that what happened yesterday with in crypto with GYEN and Gala going parabolic, that some of the retail investors that would have been attached already to Prog may have either not jumped on yet or jumped ship, trying to jump on that FOMO for a second, and that they're possibly going to return now?
What ticker was this again? I'm sorry.
It's in crypto. It's Gala and it's GYEN. GYEN is supposed to be a stable coin of the yen, but it went 400% up yesterday.
I have not even heard about this, so it's kind of news to me. I guess I would have to look into it a little bit deeper in order to find out whether there's some merit to that. But I'm sorry to say that that doesn't sound like a legitimate.
I mean, it was on Coinbase. You should definitely check it out. It was crazy.
All right. I will check it out. I definitely don't shy away from crypto. I've not been trading it as actively lately, but I know there's a lot of very exciting things between Shiba and Bitcoin, and I know we're going through a bit of a I don't want to say crash, but like a serious weakness in the crypto charts. So I've just been kind of just staying out of it and leaving my stuff where it is.
If you look at anything crypto, you should look at Jasmy. They have incredible white papers and a bunch of really top executives from Sony, and it's from the Japanese, who what they're trying to do is decentralize data and pay you for your data.
Sweet. I just got a quick question, TD, man. I ain't gonna try to take much of your time. First of all, I want to say I appreciate all the DD you've been doing, man. I've been writing this shit in SPRT. But I see the option change. I know y'all had talked a little bit about it, but I mean, since they did raise that shit to 10, shouldn't it like be applying more pressure for them to try to hedge for that shit?
Mr. Boulay. Nice to see you, dude.
Yeah, what's up, Mr. Buble? If Matt's over in Discord, man, tell him to jump on this call, man.
He might be going live soon. I don't know. I'll hit him up right now and check and see what's up. But yeah, I just thought maybe since they did that shit to 10, if everybody hops on the 10s, I mean, it's got to put some fucking pressure on them. You know, I mean, if we keep it on their throat, man, I mean, they're gonna have to fucking pay up eventually.
Well, the thing is that we do have to create a ramp. So we can't just go all in on 10. And I should preface this by saying, like, I'm not saying what I think people should do. I'm just postulating a scenario of what could happen if certain factors play out. So definitely not financial advice.
Yeah, no, I heard that. I mean, that's just, you know, from experience, that kind of shit right there. I mean, they did have the 750, so I'm sure those motherfuckers were maxed out because they just opened the 10s. But I mean, yeah, I was just thinking that shit. But the Hacker Ethos, man, I got that book ordered too, man. That shit looks good as hell. So I ordered it because the reviews on Amazon were high as fuck. I was like, I'm gonna jump on this shit, man, because this fucking this fraud shit and this scam shit, and all this shit that happens through, you know, just your security, bro. I'm real fucking iffy about that shit now. But yeah, I just
Well,
want to talk about that pressure, bro. That's it.
Appreciate you buying the book. That's really flattering, dude. Thank you.
Nah, but shout out to the Boom Gang Swazzos, man. I appreciate everything everybody's doing, man. We got a good fucking click. And that SPRT run, man, I'm glad we stayed up late that night talking about that shit because I caught it way before it ran. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no
Yeah,
good
problem,
shit,
man.
man. I
So
appreciate y'all, Wall Street, man. True Demon, man. Y'all some fucking real OGs, man. I appreciate everything y'all been doing, bro.
appreciate you, man. Yeah, SPRT was fun. I still got to get with Matt because we got to blow up a Toyota or something, bro. But he's been dodging me.
Yeah, for real. Hey, well, so y'all have a good one, man. Swazzos out.
you too,
Hey,
dude.
Demon, how are
Um,
you?
What's
This is
sorry, what
up?
was that?
Aaron from the Great Canadian Apes.
What's going on, Great Canadian? I watched your video the other night, man. It was good.
Awesome. Yeah. Me and James are here. Hey. And been through the battles for the last year. And just a couple questions for you regarding the or comments about the percentage free float out there. And so at the start of the week, it looked like the available free float was 68 million, as they're reporting the 54% free float, with the approximately 36 million shorted. Or, I'm sorry, borrowed. And then yesterday, the percentage free float went down to 42%. So I phoned Ortex, talked with them, and they said that that was an accounting issue, which now the free float was then including the 8 million shares that they used to be able to draw the debt down by 20 million, and an additional 10 million that they announced at their earnings. And then today, I see that the percentage free float goes to 31.7. And so the 68 would have went to 85 yesterday and now up to the 113. So I gave them a call in New York, and they really nothing was reported as to why. Great to talk with, and whether out of England or New York, and yeah, it was just confusing. It's I mean, if there was more shares that came available onto the market for the 393, it was sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
For 10 dip.
I did the same actually, but yeah, someone messaged me, and this is speculation, that it could have been some of the warrants being redeemed. There could have been some warrants redeemed. Either way, for me, like I said, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Whatever. Like the shorts are still there. They're still. Oh, I know Kevin agrees. Like you got a queen that are looking at fundamental great bio stocks in their opinion. List failure to delivers.
Oh,
So I mean, things like that, and this ready for weeks if they wanted to. And at this point, just
right.
like when I was in AMC in June,
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, hey, we're gonna dilute everybody. But guess what? That was the last that they had in dilution. And what happens when
Exactly.
there's no more? I would rather them just come out and dilute personally, because that's how bullish I am on this. Because if they did dilute and they used up the rest of those shares, well, then there'd be no more FUD, unnecessary FUD out there about dilution that I don't even care about. You know?
Absolutely. And from what I can see, they have increased it this week, if the Ortex numbers are correct, from the 68 million already up to 113, and with their outstanding in around what the 160 million, that they're almost done.
I think it's 144-ish, give or take.
Right.
Yeah. What's interesting too is I think you just popped it up. They now have call options going every single week instead of once a month.
Yeah,
Yep.
the weeklies just popped up.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's really interesting.
And
Yeah,
by the way, real quick, have you guys ever seen the movie Slapshot from the 70s?
absolutely.
Oh, it's awesome.
This is a compliment, bro. You look like the Hanson brothers, man, and I love it.
You know what?
Awesome.
We were just putting our deal together for today, and I think we might be getting out there with some hockey helmets on and some gloves.
Let's do it, bro. Just check them into the board as hard as you can, man. That's it. That's
what
hockey.
we're doing. It's all about. That's what.
Does that mean that True Demon is is Redford in this instance?
That's it.
Yeah, I think the dilution happened this morning.
Possibly.
Because if Vortex numbers are correct, and it went from from the 85 up to 113 million, then that would explain a drop this morning. And then once it, that resistance at $4 was just too much. It just went through for a bit of a peak and then back up. And where is it now? It's got to be at a. So it's 443. Yeah.
I have a question about the fundamentals, if you don't mind.
Kevin, you there? Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
I'm here. Yeah, man, definitely. I will. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible because there's so much to dive into. But they basically have this. There are a handful of patents that they have that are being speculated, mostly because of what they've alluded to on their website. If you go on their website, they actually have it listed that under one of those forms of technology, it's their OBDS technology. They're looking to partner with some major pharmaceutical manufacturers, and they have the molecules both listed. So you have liraglutide, and then you have also the active ingredient with Humira, which, if you're familiar with Humira, manufactured by AbbVie, that's a multi-billion-dollar medication. I mean, $10 billion plus, right? So then that's on one hand. Then you have liraglutide, which is a molecule used to treat type 2 diabetes, but it's also used off-label by doctors for weight loss. And then Novo actually saw that benefit, and then they manufactured Saxenda, which is a higher concentrated version of liraglutide, and that's just used for weight loss. So you have a lot of potential there. And then you also have people are talking about a potential partnership with Pfizer through their flagship product, Xeljanz. So you have 3 different therapeutic areas that are traditionally delivered through injection. A big obstacle for patients to receive that medication is, people have needle phobia. That's a real thing. So they might go with something that's less efficacious, but they don't have to take a shot. Now, if Progenity has these partnerships to deliver these medications that were traditionally available through a shot, now you can take a pill instead. Just imagine what that's going to do for the market cap of those 3 companies. And if Progenity were to partner with any of those 3, I mean, they're still trading under, I think they're up to 700 million something throughout the last couple of days. But just imagine what that would do to their share price. So that's kind of what the fundamental outlook is. And that's just touching in on it. I mean, there are a lot of other areas that they're looking to pursue. But when you dive deeper in and look, it's just oh my gosh, this is, we could be still, which I believe is in the very, very early innings of what this company could do.
That is beautiful, and I love the diabetes approach, because diabetes is the one of the fastest growing diseases in the Western world, because, well, lo and behold, we get fatter and lazier. So you also have the Novo Nordisk, the Danish company that works with their drug Victoza. So yeah, it's awesome.
So I used to sell Victoza.
Hey guys,
Yeah,
I'm sorry I have to interrupt really quickly. I just wanted to, I apologize that I stepped away for a second. I have to jump to a work meeting, so I'm going to leave the call up. You guys can go ahead and discuss a little bit further. I'll be back in about half an hour tops.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I actually, it's crazy that you bring that up. Yeah, so you look at the aging population, like you said, and you also look at some of the things going on in the Western world. You know, that's a whole other conversation. You can go into our food supply and how a lot of what's happened over the last 30, 40 years has kind of pointed us in this direction with a lot of metabolic disease and disorders, right? So you see the potential there, and that's not going to slow down, right? And then that's actually, it's funny that you bring that up. So just a full transparency, I'm not with them anymore, but I used to work with Novo Nordisk, and I was part of that U.S. commercial sales team selling Victoza, so I'm very familiar with the molecule, and that's actually how I even found out about Progeny to begin with. And I was part of the SPRT squeeze, and that was incredible. And then I saw Drew Damon posting some of the same things on. And so from both standpoints, I was interested in this, right? And like you mentioned, yeah, there's a lot of potential fundamentally and a lot of catalysts to keep coming. So if you're playing the squeeze now, that's awesome. But like Wall Street mentioned, also long term, if you're looking to hold it too, it's probably not a bad idea.
Kevin, do you see any similarities between Trillium, Therapeutics, and Prog?
So that's a good question, and to be honest with you, I'm gonna have to jump into more of it. What I did see a similarity with, though, so there was another molecule that Novo manufactured. It's called semaglutide. It's similar to liraglutide, but it was versus a once daily shot, it was a once weekly shot. Brand name Ozempic, right? And then they developed that into a higher form called Wegovy, which is used for weight loss too. But what's interesting is about 2 years ago, there was a company called Emisphere Technology. That's M as in Michael, I, S as in Sam is the ticker symbol, right? So that company was able to come up with a way to form an oral version of this semaglutide shot, and Novo actually bought that company. And if you go look at that ticker symbol, you can see what it did to the share price. I mean, it like 10x'd, right? I mean, it went from, I think, about $1 up to over 11, right? So I don't know if that would happen. I don't want to say there's going to be a buyout. I don't know what the plans are, but to answer your question, I had to look in more into that. But to kind of go off that, I've seen what's happened in the past potentially if the oral is effective. I've seen what can happen, so that's interesting.
And I just wanted to say that I'm really happy that I found Prog, because I've been wanting to go into Novo Nordisk and buy the stock, but it's never been a good opportunity, because it's really highly valued already. So Prog is awesome.
Yeah.
If they can just get a small piece of the market in this growth industry, this stock is going sky high.
Perfect.
But also, Kevin, are you going to be
a lot of other co-infections that these people acquire because of having to take certain medications? It's so important.
Yeah, I mean that's just wow. Yeah, I mean just listening to that, and I have to wonder with your experience, how many patients are out there who maybe don't feel like they can speak up, and that maybe they're probably dealing with like these similar concerns, and to hear you kind of be a voice for yourself as well as a lot of these other. I mean, that's just
most people don't want to
talking about
speak up. I'll tell you, I've had people tell me they hope I die during the pandemic. I've had the rudest things. You're not sick. You're lying. You look healthy, because I don't look my age. I'm 52. And just so you know, through the modality, like I said, my ex-husband actually I divorced him because I knew he was going to kill me. He's like, just listen to the doctors. And the doctors spend 10 minutes with you. And there has to be other formulations. You have to take certain responsibilities. But there's a reason why people with disabilities are protected, because there are, when you look healthy, because like Crohn's disease and lupus, it's lupus you can see on your cheeks, right? But with Crohn's disease, you won't know that the person's really sick. You're just wondering, oh, is she anorexic or is he anorexic? Why is he so thin? He can't digest, but you can't see the disease, just like you can't see my disease. I don't make immunoglobulins. I don't, I actually had people, mothers, when my daughter was younger. Thankfully, she doesn't have this condition, even though it's genetic. It skipped her. Um, Mothers would bring their children over sick to see if I would get sick, and of course, within 24 hours, I was sick. I'm not trying to be. This is why I want to explain to people why people like me don't usually speak up, because, and I'm tired of it. I'm going to explain something, because Progenity could be life changing on all levels. It'll they won't have to go to the hospital, or they won't have to have a nurse come over. They won't have to have puncture wounds to the skin to have secondary infections that could cause them to end up in the hospital again. And they'll have a better quality of life. They won't have people being rude to them, saying, "Oh, well, why are you so thin?" Or why aren't you coming out today? You're just faking. You just don't want to hang out with me today. I don't. People really need to understand how life changing this could be from a patient's standpoint. And that's why I bought into Progenity, because I saw the on top of the squeeze, but I also saw the value as a patient.
That is, it's, I can sit up here and I can talk about what I think the outlook's going to be, and I can give what I think the potential is, but I can't even come close to even touching what you have to share as far as from your firsthand experience. And it's just, for everybody that's been here right now and they're listening to this right now, like this is amazing, and thank you. You just open that up completely. Yeah, I mean, the potential of the amount of lives that they could change. I mean, it's just, I don't think we can even begin to understand, the
It
reach that it could
seems like
have.
it's revolutionary from the research that I've done on it. And people say, well, how do you know a pill's going to work? And it's funny, because people would say to me, I do a different modality because of COVID. And believe me, my daughter would be an orphan right now. So I was really scared at the beginning of the pandemic, because I decided to do some things that were, very not researched. Not researched well, I would say. And they work, but it's not for me to decide to tell other people what to do. But everybody says, well, Susan, does it work? I'm alive, aren't I? I mean, and I mean, I have to go grocery shopping. I just started going back to the gym. And it's people don't, people like, well, I know there's a lot of really people out there that are skeptical. Plus, they'll lose funding because of the fact that they'll not need nurses but we already have a nursing shortage anyway. So this will give the nurses an opportunity to go into another field, and this will, in turn help the people with rare conditions not have to be hospitalized. And there's a multitude of reasons, plus have a huge quality of life. Now they just have to take a pill, and within 30 minutes, they can start feeling good again. And they're not going to have the psychological issues of people saying, you just don't want to be with me, you're lying, so I just want to express this to this group, how important. I know it's a squeeze, and if you're worried, if you get the fear in you, please look at AUPH and see where that's gone, and kind of understand that you're also investing in something that's worthwhile for somebody like me, who is patient.
Hey, I got back here a little while ago, so I apologize that I wasn't here for the whole discussion. But thank you for jumping up here to share that. Because see, the thing is, there are lessons in the stock market that you should always invest in something that you care about, something that you would buy yourself. And I can't think of anything more important or life changing than curing, or at least being able to comfortably and palliatively treat a incurable disease. That is the same reason why I have conviction in the Sensionic stock, for instance, because they have a system that can drastically improve the lives of type 1 diabetics. And I have seen what Crohn's disease does to people and ulcerative colitis. Even my wife used to be an RN on a GI floor. I shared this on a previous call, but she's shared with me all kinds of horror stories of what that disease does to people. And yeah, I can only imagine. That being
I mean,
said, I hear what you're
dehydration
saying.
is so important, and I just, we're all talking about the numbers and everything, and I think it's important to look at also when you're looking at the drug, and people don't understand, well, how could a pill work? And I guess I'm just here to explain to this group that I use vitamins and minerals as a pill form that I actually make myself, because there's nobody, okay, every person's different with their numbers with immunological issues. So basically, I'm a they call us zebras because none of us are quite alike. We're waste bucket diagnosis. So there's no other than IgG replacement. There's no other medicine for us. I'm shit out of luck. So I have to create
Yeah.
my own, and I just want to let you guys as a group know pills work. I do it.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and definitely with the changes that and the technology that Progenity has put out there, it's very life changing. The fact that they've made or are about to make Humira over the counter accessible to people, that they can provide a solution that makes life livable and comfortable for a disease that's this severe,
Right.
is truly monumentally life changing. It is a huge win for humanity at large, and that's part of what makes it worth investing in for the long term. The fact that it's a squeeze play to me is just icing on the cake. But I wanted to
Exactly,
stop in
and I
and
think that
thank
will
you
help.
for coming up here to speak.
Oh, thank you so much.
I just wanted to chime in. I see Wall Street Viking is here too, and I saw some due diligence this morning on the WHO, I guess like clinical studies registry site, but basically like detailing Progenity with Humira as an enema for ulcerative colitis. I don't know if anyone's seen that yet, but you can go on the registry and just look up Progenity there and read lots of details about what the study entails. I think they're trying to do that in Australia.
Yeah, I haven't broken it down. Somebody sent it to me, and I looked a little into it, and it made sense. That's why I put it's interesting, because in this community, I learn more from you all than you all learn from me, and I will maintain that. And since it's a big community, I put it out there, and for this reason, for people to be able to look it over and put their own input into it. So I would love to hear if anybody has looked at that. You can go on my tweets and find it if you need to. It looked good to me from the little bit of looking into it I did before I posted it. I've been real busy all day, so.
I see that Mom, who is now headed to the meeting,
Yes.
has had her hand up for a long
Yes.
time.
I was being patient. I just wanted to say to the other speaker who was talking about her illnesses, I appreciate her, sharing those experiences. I had about 3 years total working in the pharmaceutical industry at various levels. I've worked retail and I've worked at corporate level specialty, and specialty pharmacy is what Humira and all these drugs, or Saxenda and all these drugs we're talking about, that's how they're handled. And specialty pharmacy is just a fancy way of saying really, really freaking expensive. I never really understood what makes something specialty or not, but generally speaking, they just have special handling, special counseling that has to happen. And obviously, pharmacies don't just carry these medications, they have to be shipped and ordered specially. But I also am somebody who deals with chronic illnesses, so I can relate to previous speakers' experience about how difficult it is to navigate and cope with some of the issues that come with, IVs and pokes and all those things. I have something called POTS. So I've been in and out of IV settings multiple times. I've had to be dependent on fluids multiple times. And it is frustrating for a patient when your life revolves around having to make time to go sit somewhere for a few hours. So it's very frustrating. And I used to order the Humira and counsel patients on their medication, get it sent to retail locations so that they can pick it up. And let me tell you, Humira was like an Enbrel, all those kinds of immunobiologic medications. They were like number one. They're like everybody wanted to be on them because they treat so much, and they're often touted as like a wonder drug because they treat so many inflammatory and autoimmune conditions. That said, one of the biggest deterrents, aside from cost, which I know a lot of secrets about pricing. So if anybody ever needs help trying to afford a medication, I know about that. I have that pinned to my Twitter. But anyway, that was one of the challenges. So if they couldn't afford it, or if they could afford it, that was the first challenge. But the other challenge was, well, wait, I have to use the needle, I have to poke myself. Yes, that was a problem. Some people wouldn't do it. They were just like too scared. That freaked them out too much. And when we say injectable, oftentimes these patients are injecting themselves, which is hard to learn, and some patients can't do it. They're just too squeamish or whatever. So that was a problem. And there's just multiple delivery methods. There's like auto injectable pen. Some people would use a vial because they needed a citrate-free version of Humira. It was just a whole thing. But it worked wonders. I can tell you that my patients would tell me it changed their lives and it made them be able to function. And again, as somebody with chronic illness myself, that's huge. And so convenience is a huge, huge, huge advantage. But anyway, I just want to say that I had started live streaming yesterday, and I do have a video where I did give a shout out to True Demon, and I discussed why Prog is such a strong fundamental play. Just so everyone knows, when we say Humira is expensive, we mean like patients were paying $5,000 per fill. If they had insurance, sometimes it was $2,000 per fill, and I'm talking 30-day supply. That's extreme, but again, not the most expensive. I'll tell you though, if anyone wants to know what the most expensive specialty drug is on the market, is likely a hepatitis C medication. I used to fill those for $30,000.
Over at Gilead, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, like we had Hervoni was a big one, but yeah, it was insane. $30,000. And yeah, there's lots of grants and stuff that would cover those things. But I mean, like when people would ask, like, well, okay, how much is it out of pocket? I'm like, you can't afford it out of pocket. I mean, what is the price? $30,000. Oh my gosh. But that's a whole nother can of worms. But anyway, my point is there's a lot of money in it, and there's a lot of patients who are on this medication, and this is convenient for them. But I also, on my stream, I also broke down what makes a patent and why they can charge so much money. And it kind of ties into the Orphan Drug Act that came to be in the 1980s. So if anyone's interested in learning about any of that, just letting you know, I have that in my video, but I don't want to take up like too much of the talking time. So that was just all I want to say.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always good to have somebody who's got experience in the industry throwing in their 2 cents. And yeah, huge props to you, by the way. If you're still doing, if you're still in pharmaceuticals and stuff, thanks for being on the front line. I know not a lot of people make mention of that, but I know what it's like to have to get up to do a job that nobody else wants to do. That's hard, and especially during a pandemic. Like I'll just say, as a soldier, I have never had to do anything close to what required the nurses and the pharmacists to do during COVID. There is no single event in my entire military career that I have ever experienced that required the endurance that you all have shown. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm no longer in the industry, but I was, and let me tell you, retail, all pharmacy workers are like the unsung heroes. Your pharmacist is your hero. If you are unsure of anything about your doctor telling you about pharmaceuticals or something doesn't seem right, just check with the pharmacist. Pharmacist will save your life. That's all I can say.
Yeah, legit.
That is highly accurate. Yeah, it is.
Yep. I I actually I have a funny story about that. My grandfather was he was a veteran, and he would get all of his treatments at the VA hospital. They have tried to kill him on 3 separate occasions because he's allergic to penicillin, and they tried to administer him penicillin, and the pharmacist was always the one that caught it, either a nurse or a pharmacist, every time. But the doctor was the one trying to kill my grandfather.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely correct every time.
Yeah.
Wow,
Like,
crazy. I'm glad he's okay.
Check the damn charts, for God's sake. Check the damn charts. Anyway, I'll go ahead and bring it back a little bit to where we're at with Progenity, and since we've been talking about fundamentals, we've also been talking a lot about Humira and the wonder drug that it is. It is definitely worth pointing out where that drug comes from AbbVie, ABBVIE, or ticker symbol ABBV. That company in like the $5 billion range or so. Somebody that's got the fundamentals on hand can feel free to correct me, but that company nets billions of dollars every quarter just because of that drug. And the thing is that they're now running into a problem because of biosimilars, where there's a lot of drugs that are able to do the same things that Humira does, but Humira is the main one, right? Because it's well tested, it's well known, it's widespread, it's globally accepted, approved by the FDA, and all of those other regulatory bodies in the EU. So it's super well known, extremely effective drug, but also expensive, and it nets that company billions of dollars, but they're losing market share because of biosimilars. The one thing that nobody else has been able to do is they've not been able to create a oral administrable pill for it. It's just not something that you would that was ever thought to be done about it, because it had to be injected, right? It had to go into the bloodstream. So with this new drug, with this new drug delivery system, I should say, with Progenity, they have the potential to jump into all of those, not just AbbVie, but all of the Humira lookalikes that net billions of dollars, and to be the company that exclusively has the technology patents necessary to deliver that drug orally is absolutely fundamentally huge. Just AbbVie by itself, they're trading at $117 per share right now. And just from the price, like, I want to actually pull up what their market cap is. So bear with me here for 1 second. Yeah, so AbbVie's market cap is $207.3 billion. That's
just real quick.
That's massive.
So when you look at on that same hand, if you look at Novo's market cap, 260 billion, and then just for all intents and purposes, let's look at Pfizer's market cap, 287 billion. So just wanted to tag that on.
Hey, real quick, guys. My app crashed. I'm not a co-host anymore, but somebody messaged me. He's requested. He's a doctor. His phone's about to die. His name is I think it's Krishna Kilaru. I'm probably butchering it, but he says his phone is about to die. He wants to give a different perspective. Just so you know, I can't see anymore because, like I said, my app crashed.
Okay, I can't see him. I can't see him on the request on the speaker request. I'll bring you back up, Wall Street, and then you can. Okay. So I'll bring you back up, and you can feel free to bring him up to speak at the earliest opportunity. But just capping off my thoughts here. So like I was mentioning, the fundamentals with AbbVie. AbbVie has a float of 1.7. They have outstanding shares of 1.7 billion, and their float is their outstanding shares are 1.77 billion. Their float is 1.75 billion. So they've got like about 100 times the 120 times, just head math. Sorry, not very good at head math, but 120 or so times the number of shares that Progenity does. But Progenity Progenity's trading at 1%, at 1% the value of AbbVie, less than that. So think about just if Progenity's drug delivery system is able to break out to Novo Nordisk for the administration of insulin, if they're able to break out to AbbVie and provide Humira's drug delivery as a drug delivery, oral drug delivery, and they are able to reach out to Pfizer for their drug and vaccine deliveries. Think about it like an orally delivered vaccine. That would be nuts. Because it's the same principle that you're just injecting something into the bloodstream, but you're doing it through an oral delivery system. It takes away the entire fear of needles, which I know is, it sounds stupid, but you'd be surprised the number of people that are just like, ew, needles, no, don't touch me. And they'll just like never get vaccinated just because of that alone. And I won't really address the other separate notes for why other people don't get vaccinated, because I'm not willing to open up that discussion here. But point is that between these three different life-saving applications for this oral delivery system, that's just one pillar of Progenity's business. That's just one thing that they've made. They've also got genetic sequencing, a whole new method for genetic sequencing that they can use to look for hereditary traits of cancer or genetic defects before someone's even born. They're able to apply that to other propensities for diseases and cancers later on in life. They can use it to rule out or demonstrate a likelihood for somebody to exhibit a disease later on in the future so that they can look for it. Like, imagine the amount of lives that will save once that is applied to internal medicine. Just one and just these two arms of Progenity's business are set to completely restructure the way that internal medicine is used to treat diseases by preventative measures.
Hey, True Damon, I just wanted to add to that. Didn't they also have don't they have a patent, or they're working on some kind of testing for preeclampsia in pregnant women?
Precludia,
Yes.
they've already got
Yeah,
that.
they are.
That one's
They've got
already
that
out
one
there.
over. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, they are.
And that's
Yep.
amazing
And
too. That's incredible.
that is amazing. I was looking into that, and that's actually one of my favorite statistics to cite, is that preeclampsia is the second leading cause of maternal death in pregnancy. Hello. This must be Dr.
Yeah, I
Killian.
pulled him up. He says he's not familiar with the technology of it, so bear with him.
I am the worst Asian you'll ever meet when it comes to tech. So I just had something really quick to add. I'm a doctor in internal medicine, and I just wanted to speak because the whole thing is getting super overcomplicated. The preeclampsia stuff, whatever, the oral drug delivery thing is huge because basically it's way easier to take a pill flat out. That's it. I mean, you can talk about different diseases and how it helps, but for example, let's say somebody comes in with diabetic ketoacidosis and they have to stay in the hospital when they're on an insulin drip and they have to go home on insulin. I keep them in the hospital for a day to make sure they know how to inject it.
Yeah.
So, you know, there some people like, okay, we're talking about, oh, it's easier to take a pill than inject, and there are people, there are patients where they don't get it, like they can't, like you try to teach them and they're unable to do it. So insulin is one thing, they're taking that every day. If it's Humira, or if it's something you're taking once every few weeks, you're just going to have them come back into the office. And the thing about the oral drug delivery system is this can be applicable to a ton of drugs. And when you're looking at, it's not just about like short squeezes. Yeah, there's that aspect, but most of those, like a lot of those companies, they're not as good as this company. Let's be honest, they're not. And this one actually has a legit product. It's better than developing a really good drug. And when they're talking about the from their quarterly earnings conference call, they were talking about how the approvals could get done faster, because we're talking about Humira, and like that's already been tested. So he implied that it would be a lot faster to get approved when you're not trying to bring a drug. You're just they're trying to get approval for the way it's given. But that's pretty much all I had to say. Also, most people that have penicillin allergies, they don't really have penicillin allergies. It's from how penicillin used to be made. So somebody a long time ago told them they were allergic to penicillin when they're not. So that's the reason for that. Anyway, that's about it.
Thank
Gotcha.
you.
If you're referring to the story that I was sharing earlier, my grandfather actually was allergic, and like he had a near lethal reaction. So they actually gave it to him and it nearly killed him. But yeah, that is a worthwhile.
The ones that have it, you definitely don't want to give it to them. But I'm just saying that's why. I mean, there are also shitty doctors that just they need to read the chart.
It does happen.
You know,
it does happen. I'm sad to say that the VA hospitals, they don't really. I'm just going to come out and say VA hospitals don't hire the best doctors out there. But hey, what can you do?
And
thank you very much for coming up, Doc.
And just to clarify, this is medical advice, and you are a medical advisor.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm internal medicine. I work as a hospitalist. I only deal with inpatient patients, and I also work the ICU. So the only reason I spoke is because everybody's talking about these specific drugs and how it helps with the specific disease. And it's like the reason the company's so good is because like the product is good, and you don't actually see it until you take a step back and don't overcomplicate it. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I do hear what you're saying. So to the doctor's point, and I want to reiterate because your audio was cutting in and out a little bit. Just the fact that an oral delivery system can be made to administer through a pill directly into somebody's bloodstream is massive, because there is so much other medicine that must be administered intravenously through the bloodstream that there's no other way to deliver it, but it's life-saving, it's necessary, and what's more, a lot of it has to be taken on a regular rotating basis. So because of Progenity's technology, the ability to deliver orally a medicine that must be delivered to the bloodstream changes everything in the world of internal medicine as a result. So yes, I reference Humira a lot because it's an easy one to target, just because it's the most profitable drug in the world. But that doesn't mean that that's the only application for it. This is applicable to insulin. It's applicable to anti-inflammatory medication. It's applicable to pain relief. It's applicable to so many things that must be delivered intravenously in order for it to be safe or effective. So this is massive advance in technology in terms of the world of internal medicine. It's really there's no way Progenity does not go to an absolutely insane price in the next decade. This company is not going anywhere. These patents are worth billions of dollars. I can promise you that. When this finally hits and the market catches up with it, everybody is going to be glad for every share of this company that they own, because it is not going anywhere. And when this technology finally takes off and becomes regular, just like run-of-the-mill how you take medicine, it's going to make the company's value explode.
I had a quick question for the doctor while he's still on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just, I mean, without getting into, like you said, like don't overcomplicate it, but I just wanted to hear your perspective. I mean, could you see this potentially, changing some of the current treatment algorithms that are already in play? Like, for example, with the American Diabetes Association, obviously for years they recommended, on a newly diagnosed type 2, metformin is going to be first line always, right? Because it's affordable and
Yeah.
it's accessible, right? And it's regular. But in recent years, with a lot of the advancements in the GLP-1, receptor agonist class, they've actually changed those to first line also because of the cardiovascular benefit. But the only problem is that when you come to the payer level, being speculated as being potential suitor for progenitor delivery, liraglutide is scheduled to go off patent August 2022. Could you see hypothetically one day? Okay, yeah, and that's what I wanted to ask, and just wanted to hear your perspective.
I honestly don't, because it is injectable, and metformin will still be like the number one always, but you would add this
always
for onto it, and yeah, I had something else to say, but I just had one of those moments where you forget what you're going to say, and when you think about it. Hello.
Hey Doc, I think your audio cut out a little
I was
bit.
cutting in and out.
Yeah, I had a call in the middle, and my phone's probably going to die here. Yeah, I guess that's mostly it.
I also appreciate Hotel California in the background.
Yeah, I came out to
a little bit of mood music for the
restaurant.
Mood music for the market.
Yeah, I just I'm just excited about this thing. Oh, the other thing I was going to say was like for Humira. So I was talking about Progendi to a GI friend of mine, and like I told him, there's a way, and they patented. There's a company that made a patent so you could take it orally instead of injectable. And then he said, "Oh shit!" Like that was his response.
Yeah, that was kind of my thinking. I'm like, well, Jesus, if we don't have to take a needle in order to get this medicine anymore, like that's really going to leave a lot of people with no excuses to get treated. It's just going to open up the doors to everybody.
I just remembered the other thing I was going to say, and that's when I interrupted while you were talking because I don't know how to do this hand raise thing. But if it was my company, I wouldn't sell it. I wouldn't want to be bought out. I would just, ride it out and then have all these other pharmaceutical companies buy balls.
Right. That's how I look at it. Like a buyout doesn't really seem like the way to go. If you're owning this company, or if you're an executive of this company, why would you sell it anymore? Like a buyout at this point just doesn't really seem like the way to go. But I mean, for the squeeze, it's good for people. But in terms of the long-term value of Progenity, like I wouldn't sell it. You've just created the most significant advancement in internal medicine and medical technology since, as far as I'm concerned, Humira itself or insulin. Like the fact that the medicine can now be delivered orally that is huge, and I can't stress it enough. So it's got me excited, and I'm even more bullish the fact that now we have a professional doctor in internal medicine working in an ICU that's kind of like, nah, you're still not excited enough. Just gets me a little bit more pumped. So thanks for coming up, Doc. Really appreciate it.
I try not to say all that because I like to keep the bar low, and then you have nowhere to go but up.
Hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all taking risks.
I got stupid jokes. They're hit or miss. Sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna get going because my battery's gonna die. I gotta plug it in.
All right. Well, thank you for coming up to speak. Really appreciate it. I'm gotta go in about 12 minutes, so I'm gonna let everybody else get the chance to get their questions out. I'm gonna kindly ask that you try to be brief so that we can get to as many people as possible to get their questions answered, and then I'm gonna end the space.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
All right, thanks. It's the first time that I've been on a space call, but I really appreciate you guys making the time for this. And I just jumped on, so I'm not sure if you've had any conversations with the public in regards to the patient's perspective of this, but I do have ulcerative colitis, and I just can't tell you how exciting the potential of this could be for me. So just coming from someone who's been in the middle of a flare up and having to change the infusion drug because Remicade isn't working anymore for me through the IV. So it's a very exciting time just to be a part of this.
Man, I'm glad that you came up to share. You're not the only person who has come up. That's somebody else was speaking earlier that either had UC or Crohn's. I'm sorry, I can't recall which, but yes, every time I hear about it, it's really exciting, saddening that you're dealing with this disease, but at the same time, really exciting that this new advancement in technology is just arriving, and that so many thousands of people that are dealing with this disease that is becoming more and more common with each generation is now able to seek treatment. So it's making the treatment easier and more accessible. I can only imagine how you must be feeling with these changes coming just around the corner. And I mean, I'd be like a kid waiting on release day at GameStop, just sitting outside around the corner, waiting to get my hands on this so that I could get treatment if I was dealing with this.
Yeah, the investment side of it is like secondary for me, just for the possibility that this could change my life on a day to day. But yeah, I'll definitely be behind this stock for as long as I can. So just to everyone else out there, just knowing that, like, from the patient's point of view, this is very incredible, and yeah, I just couldn't be more excited.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective, dude. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I want to give everybody else a chance to get their questions answered.
All right,
Okay, JP.
I have a quick question. So I've been following this chart for a bit, and it's also following SPRT's chart almost identically. Like right now, the latest dip would be around 8:25, around 12 p.m. What are your thoughts on this, on how it correlates with SPRT's action when it sweeps? And also, we've been having a decent amount of call volume today, even though our open yeah, actually, I actually made mention of this a lot earlier, that that Progenity was setting up to be just like SPRT back in August, and I said that right around the tail end of October, if I remember correctly. But yeah, their setups were very similar. The major difference was that SPRT had 110% of its on August 20th, which was options expiration. And as a result of that, the following Monday is when the squeeze really started to get, well, the stock started to run, but the squeeze finally happened on that Wednesday. So I'm really excited for next week, because when I look at the number of options that are expiring in the money, as long as we can hold above this, if we hold above $4, like that's fantastic, because so many people have exercised at this point that I'm confident that if we can maintain this $4 support level, higher would be better, obviously, but even $4 or even $3.50 is going to cause a huge amount of movement in the coming weeks. And it could be as early as this Friday, but I think that it will probably really start to take off in the next week or two. But definitely agree with you on the comparison to SPRT. It's a very similar setup.
So just to clarify that you said that SPRT actually squeezed on the Monday after options closed out, despite
Yeah,
having.
it started running. It started running because all of the the reason why this happens is because of T+2 on options expiration, and most people didn't exercise their options until after Friday close. And that's what happens automatically with your broker. So T+2 days later is that's the deadline for when the broker has to deliver those shares to their customer. So they have to go reach out. They have to submit their transactions, get the clearinghouse to clear all of the transactions, and then they have to go collect the shares from whoever those calls were sold, whoever sold those calls, and all of that stuff. So it takes 2 days to complete those settlements. The thing that's different here about Progenity is that people started exercising early on Monday, and they've been exercising all up until Wednesday, and I think there's been some exercising, not as much, but some today. So because of that, the runs started happening earlier, and now more options are in the money now as a result of that. So it creates a huge advantage. And the more of these that expire in the money by Friday, the more violent the move can be in the following week. So do I think that the squeeze is going to happen this week? Maybe. It's probably not going to squeeze before Friday. Market makers are really trying to keep it pinned so that they can kind of salvage their losses. But after the expiration of all of these options, there's going to be violent movement because there's so many there's so many of these calls that are going to be expiring in the money that it's going to require a lot of buying volume in order to restore inventory for market makers, brokers, and so on, in order to be ready for the following week's trading. So I'm suspecting there's about to be a supply crisis right here, and the fact that now the December options chain has filled up, and we're even opening up weekly options, which I will say be careful with weeklies. It's very it's very uncertain with weeklies, but we have a really good setup. We've got a lot of momentum on our side, so there's a good chance.
Thanks for all that info.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for coming up. I know you had your hand up for a while, so I'm sorry that you didn't get your question answered earlier. Does somebody else want to bring something up? I've got 4 minutes left.
I'll hop in. I'll try to make it quick. So I work in the PBM payer world, and we've talked about it a little bit already. I haven't been on the whole time, but just to kind of reemphasize the Humira point, in 2023, their patent is expiring, and there's already a biosimilar approved. So it's pretty classic pharma to come up with a new formulation when their patent expires to try to retain that revenue and market share. So all the payers essentially in the world right now are kind of waiting on this patent to expire. So really, Progenity, and the fact that it's already in clinical trials, I'm almost expecting AbbVie's already tried to make an offer to buy Progenity, just because this drug, as you've already talked about, has so much value to the fact that they could, effectively switch people from the auto injector product to a pill formulation, which is better for patients anyway. I just think is completely underrated, as we've already kind of talked about today. But just kind of want to reemphasize that, and I agree that this is likely a target for other pharmaceutical companies. So I think Progenity just has tremendous upside. So extremely bullish.
You were spot on. In addition to Humira's patent coming to so is Victoza. So that's the other molecule they have listed on their website. So it's kind of crazy. I don't think it's a coincidence that Victoza is set to expire August of 2022.
Yeah. like this would be the newest formulation in Humira, and then like health plans would be pretty much stuck offering this new formulation because it's obviously it's not an injection. It may have higher efficacy. So that's, and in general, AbbVie just has a ton of leverage with payers just because of how big the product is. And that's how they've gotten some of their newer products added to formulary. So this is more ammo for AbbVie.
All right, I'm afraid that I am all out of time. Thank you guys for dropping in to listen, and I appreciate your questions. I hope this was helpful to you to kind of re-solidify your convictions, and just be a little bit more patient. We are consolidating right now, so just remember that we had a hell of a run. Like this has been a massive run. So if you got into the play late, if you bought at the top and you ended up top ticking and are feeling a little bit nervous, like I am truly sorry, but just hang on with the rest of us. This thing is not over, and even if I top ticked it myself and all of my shares were bought at $6, like I really wouldn't care. This squeeze or no squeeze, this company is creating something that is truly monumentally life-changing for all of the world's medicine. It's really going to change humankind. So stick with us, be patient, and because patience is key. Thanks everybody for joining, and I will see you on the next one.